Welcome to the Modern Taoist with Kit Man. Ancient wisdom, modern life, and the way. Visit us online at taoananda.com or find us on all the socials. Now, the Modern Taoist.
All right, hello and welcome to the Modern Taoist. My name is Kit Man, and I don't know what episode number this is. At this point, when you get past 10, does it matter? Do we need to keep saying the episode number? I think is it 10 or is it, I don't know. Again, I'm not sure it matters. How do people enjoy, imbibe? What's the word I'm looking for? How do people take in podcasts? Do you binge them? Do you listen every day? I'm still trying to figure all of that out. But on this episode, I want to talk about something that we're all feeling right now. And I like to, I kind of equated it when I was coming up with the episode. I kind of equated it to, because there's a hum right now. And you may not hear it. You may not it may not be an audible thing to you, but you feel it. And I'm calling it the hum of unease. There is a restlessness going on in the world right now. The world feels restless. Chaos is in the air. You see it in politics. You see it in the economy. You see it in the way people are arguing online. Total strangers, arguing about nothing. You see it in the way that people rush through their days. Even when things look calm on the surface, most people admit right now to feeling uneasy. Something is off. They can't put their finger on it. And that unease shows up like a low, menacing hum. Whether you can hear it or not, it's there. And then it begins to manifest itself in human beings as exhaustion and outrage and anxiety. Or maybe for some people that don't spend a ton of time bringing that into their lives, they still feel this vague sense that life right now is heavier than it should be. And I believe people are searching. Even if they don't call it a spiritual searching, even if they've never set foot inside a temple or read a book about philosophy, they're searching when they feel burnout by endless scrolling. They're searching when they wonder why winning doesn't feel like winning. It doesn't feel satisfying. They're searching when they sense that there must be more than the noise, but they just don't know where to look. And I believe that's why Taoism matters now, and why it will matter even more in the next 10 to 15 years. Taoism doesn't offer another distraction, another ideology, another fight. It offers something very different. A way of being that is steady and balanced and quietly nourishing. Chapter 35 of the Tao Te Ching: hold fast to the great image, and all under heaven will come. They come and do not harm. They come in peace and rest. Sounds like Bible scripture almost when you read it like that, when you read it in the context of what we're talking about, right? But when you break that down, what is striking about that is its quietness. Taoism isn't flashy. It doesn't dazzle you with sound and spectacle and stories. In fact, Lao Tse admits, compared to music and feasts, the Tao can feel boring and tasteless. It doesn't run out, ever. You can lean on it every day and it doesn't break, but it is a bit blah, I guess. The world is burning itself out on distraction. And that's exactly why Taoist voices and Taoist teachers are going to be important in the years ahead. People are hungry for something that doesn't fade. Something they can count on. Something that no one has to argue with them about. Even if they can't name it yet, they're looking. So our role, my role, I guess, is to point toward that great image, to remind people that there is a way, and it isn't exhausting, it isn't flashy, and it doesn't leave you empty. So chapter 35 is kind of what we're focusing on here today, I guess. I guess the guiding question for this episode, what does chapter 35 tell us about the Tao, and why does the world need it now more than ever? Most people can name their stresses. Bills, work deadlines, politics, family tensions. But beneath those obvious pressures is something harder to name. It's a low-grade unease that hums under the surface. You feel it when you wake up already tired. You feel it when your thoughts scatter, even in a quiet afternoon. You might have been feeling it your whole life and you didn't even realize it. You feel it when your mind replays the same worries over and over, even though nothing new has happened to you. That's not just stress. Listen to the word it is. Disease. Dis-ease. That's the word disease. Dis-ease. Dis-ease isn't always about illness. It's the constant heaviness that sneaks into your thoughts, even when you think you're fine. You scroll through your phone and afterwards you can't point to anything that upsets you, but you feel restless anyway. You watch the news, and even if the story doesn't touch your life directly, you get a knot in your chest for hours. You sit in a meeting, and even if no one has said anything harsh, you feel judged or inadequate. None of these things might seem like very much on their own, right? You understand? They're not on their own, but they accumulate. They invade. Lao Tse saw the same thing in his time. In chapter 35, he wrote, "Music and food make passing guests stop, but the Tao, though tasteless, has no end." What he meant is that the world will always offer distractions to mask uneasiness. In his day, those distractions were feasts and entertainment. In ours, it's endless content, buying something new, staying with the trends, headlines. These things grab our attention, but only for a minute. They don't resolve the unease. They just cover it up for a few seconds. And that's why the unease always returns. No matter how much you eat, watch, or scroll, that relief doesn't last. You wake up with the same heaviness because the real hunger isn't being fed. That hunger is for something steady, something that doesn't fade the moment the music stops or the screen goes dark. The problem with the modern culture that's built on distraction, right? We're told to treat unease with more input. Another binge, another purchase, another argument online, but that can't be drowned. That unease can't be drowned out forever. It lingers because it's pointing to something real. And that what it's pointing to is a lack of balance in your life. A disconnection from the Tao, from that great image that Lao Tse spoke of. A lack of balance. Taoism doesn't promise to ease chaos or erase chaos, but it teaches us how to live with clarity in the middle of it. Unease grows when we're cut off from a deeper current of life. Taoism doesn't smother unease with noise. It dissolves it by reconnecting us to something real and steady and inexhaustible. That's the problem we're framing, right? A world addicted to distractions, full of people carrying unease that they can't even name, desperate for relief that never lasts. So the next question is, how does Taoism meet this disease, this dis-ease, without promising a quick fix? And why is its tasteless way more nourishing than all the flash that the world wants to sell us? There's a kind of a suffering that doesn't make headlines. It isn't dramatic. It doesn't always land someone in the doctor's office. It's quieter than that. It shows up when you can't sleep all the way through the night. When there's a knot in your stomach when nothing bad has happened. It shows up when you have a short temper. It shows up when you feel drained and dull. It's not quite depression. It's not quite anxiety. It's not quite burnout. But it's close to all of them. That's the hum. That's that that you're feeling. This underlying negative vibration. And that hum has become so normal that most people don't even question it anymore. We assume that all of this nonsense is just part of being alive right now. How many times have you heard someone say, well, everyone's tired. Everybody's stressed. Everybody feels a little off. But that hum isn't just background static. That's a sign of disconnection. A sign that the way we are living is out of rhythm. I'm going to start cursing in a minute. Because I want you to understand that that's what that is. You're out of freaking rhythm. Lao Tse knew about this. In chapter 35 of the Tao Te Ching, he wrote, music and food makes passing guests stop. But the Tao, though tasteless, has no end. He's not dismissing the good things in life, music and food and celebration. That's not the point. The point is those things come and go. They distract us and soothe us for a moment, but they don't resolve that that's underneath. Think about it. You put on your favorite song and it lifts you up for 3 or 4 minutes. And when it ends, immediately that restlessness returns. You binge a show, you forget about your worries for an hour. Maybe even you watch 2 episodes, it kills your whole night, you go to bed, but you toss and turn. And the next morning you wake up and that unease is there and you can't figure it out. You don't know why. You buy something new, that feels exciting for a little while. That hum, man, that hum outlasts all of it. The Tao is different because it lasts the hum. It outlasts the hum. It doesn't excite your senses the way the hum does. That's why it's called tasteless. At first, it feels plain. Sitting quietly with your breath isn't flashy. Walking slowly around the neighborhood or through nature doesn't give you a heart-racing rush. Paying attention to the ordinary doesn't feel like much. But that's the medicine. It's steady. What's quiet endures. The Tao doesn't cover the hum, it dissolves it. And that's where Taoism feels countercultural. Because our society is literally built on noise. Everything is about bigger, faster, louder. We treat unease by piling on more stimulation, hoping that will drown out the discomfort. I'm not saying don't watch your favorite shows. I'm not saying don't listen to your favorite music. I'm saying don't expect those things to be nourishing. It'll keep you busy for a bit, but it doesn't feed you. That's why so many people are searching right now, even if they don't have the language to express it. They may never wake up in the morning and say, you know what I need? You know what I was thinking about last night? I need some Taoism. How about that? Big old glass of that. That'd be good. They don't realize, they don't think about that. You don't think of the Tao in those terms. But you feel that hum. They feel that restlessness, the vague sense of dread that you don't know where it's coming from, that constant freaking low-grade stress. And I believe right now people are hungry for something that doesn't fade when the screen turns off. And the Tao isn't going to announce itself. It's not going to come stomping in, competing with the noise, but it's there. It's quiet. And it's endless. And once you begin to touch it, through your breath, through being present, through stillness, you realize it's the only thing that actually quiets that hum. So the question becomes, how do we retrain ourselves to value these things that feel plain and tasteless at first? How do we begin to show people that this quiet way is what they've been searching for so long? And do we even need to show people? Because if we live in that way, we become an example, and we don't even know we are. The strange thing about this hum of unease is that it doesn't mean that people are broken. It means that people are hungry. Hungry for calm, hungry for steadiness, for a way of living that doesn't leave them drained at the end of every single day. That hunger shows up everywhere in the woman that worries without knowing why, the man that carries anger he can't explain, the young person who feels restless all the time because they just don't know why. Here's the paradox. What they're searching for is already available. Hold fast to the great image and all under heaven will come. They come, they do not harm, they come in peace and rest. The Tao isn't hidden. It's right there. Anybody can have it. It isn't a secret practice reserved for monks or sages or people that have been studying for 30 years. It's there. For anyone, in the patterns of nature, in the rhythm of your breath, in the balance of opposites, notice the middle. Calm is available. Balance is available. The inexhaustible stream is right there. Most people don't notice it because it doesn't scream and shout for attention. The world sells us stimulation. Bright, loud, flavorful, feels good for a minute, then it's gone. Sitting quietly with your breath, boring. Walking without your headphones, empty. Eating simply, blech. But that's only how it looks on the surface. Beneath that tastelessness, that boring nothing, is something. And it's something inexhaustible. The gap between need and availability is the crisis of our age. People are desperate for rest, but they chase it in ways that makes them more tired. They want to quiet that hum, but they reach for more noise. The Tao is available, but it's not attractive. When you're trained, when your eyes are trained on spectacle. So that hum continues. And that's why Taoist teachers matter. Not because Tao needs marketing, but because people need reminding. A Taoist teacher doesn't compete with the noise of the world. They don't try to make a Tao that is louder and flashier. Their role is much more radical. They hold on to that great image and they help others notice that it's been there all along. They bridge the gap. They help someone understand that restless anxiety isn't a failure on your part. It's simply a symptom of disconnection. Taoist teachers guide people into simple practices that reveal the Tao. Breathing, grounding, pausing, noticing. They translate tasteless into seasoned nourishment. And they don't do it by force. They do it by presence. And I believe very strongly that over the next 10 years, this role is going to grow to be very important because the need is rising fast. Anxiety and depression rates are climbing at all-time highs. But many people, and I know many personally, that feel this, but they don't meet the clinical threshold for an anxiety or a depression diagnosis. They live with this low-grade, restless hum every day. It's not enough to collapse them, but it is enough to drain them year after year. And so they turn to politics. They wrap themselves up in self-help books. Consumer fixes. Give somebody money, they'll solve your problem. Nope. None of that lasts. The hum only grows louder. Meanwhile, there's the Tao right there, right next to you, right? Just look to your right, look to your left, look ahead, look behind, look above, look below. It's all around you. The only missing piece is some guidance. Hopefully this podcast can help with that. Hopefully maybe you have a teacher near you. Maybe there's another, it doesn't matter how. Teachers are vital not because they control the Tao. Nobody does that, but because they make it visible for you. They remind people that what they're searching for is already around. Like I told you, I think in one of the other episodes, my teacher, he was very adamant about saying, I can't teach you anything. Everything you need to know, you already know. All I can do is make it visible. like a fingerprint detective with that powder that they're always brushing on TV. The fingerprints are already there, you're just making them visible. Same thing. This is the work ahead. The need is everywhere. The Tao is available, but you got to find one that's not a guru demanding followers, not celebrities selling wellness products. That's not what you're looking for. The need is real. The availability is real. The missing piece is the recognition. So when Lao Tse says, hold fast to the great image, he isn't handing out a checklist. He's describing an orientation, a way of standing in the world, holding on to this image of the Tao. Keep your attention on what is steady, even while everything else is pulling at you. It's not something you accomplish once and for all. It's something you lean into every day. So what does that look like in practice? Not in the sense of a technique, you understand, but in the sense of how you carry yourself. First and foremost, it's choosing depth over distraction. When the hum of unease arises, most people instinctively reach for something louder. Another scroll, another snack, another argument to get lost in. Holding on to the image, the great image of the Tao, means letting that impulse pass and turning instead toward what is plain. Instead of noise, choose silence. Instead of stimulation, choose stillness. And you're going to be nourished by what you perceive as plainness. Once you're in it, it's not plain. It becomes powerful. Secondly, it looks like trusting what is steady over what is flashy. Music, food, entertainment, distractions, they're all fun. We all love them. They grab your attention, but they fade. When they fade, the Tao is there, so you don't feel empty. If you hold on to that image, even when it just feels subtle, that trust is itself a practice. The third thing it looks like is embodying presence in a way that influences others without force. A person that holds on to the great image of the Tao doesn't need to argue or convince or perform. They become magnetic simply by being steady. All under heaven will come. That means people are drawn to peace even if they don't know why. They're drawn to a lack of chaos. And when you carry balance, it shows, and others feel it. Think about your office situation, or a school situation, or a chaotic big family situation. What if just 3 or 4 people were more peaceful and balanced than they are? This is where Taoism matters, because while the Tao is always available, a lot of people don't know how to recognize it. So Taoist teachers, they don't hand out magic tricks. We don't add noise to compete with the world. They model the steadiness. They remind people that tasteless things they've been ignoring are actually the nourishment and the vitamins they've been longing for. If the need is everywhere, right? And if the Tao is already everywhere, well, the next move isn't another trick or a technique. It's learning how to stand in a different way. Like chapter 35 says, hold fast to that image, and everyone will come, and they will come in peace and rest. The great image isn't a picture you can frame. It's the shape of the way itself, the pattern of things when they're not being forced. It may be a visualization that you do. Me personally, I don't know why, but anytime I try to get into, maybe I've gotten distracted and I'm starting to feel frustration and I need to get back to that. For whatever reason, the image I always choose in my head is simply a tree blowing in the wind. It reminds me that tree is going to blow in the wind because the wind is there. It's not going to fight against it. It's not going to call for more wind or less wind. It's not going to look for something else to do while the wind is there. It's just going to be there, blowing. And I hold on to that because holding to it means letting your attention rest on something that is real and steady. Even when the world is waving shiny balls in your face. It's a choice of orientation, not performance. The contrast is blunt, right? Music and food make everybody stop, but the Tao has no end. So what does holding look like when the hum is under your skin? It looks like letting the reflex to distract pass without chasing it. It looks like noticing the pull towards another argument, another hot take, another scroll, and choosing, for gosh sakes, choose not to feed it. Not as some kind of a moral stance, but because you feel that you know in your heart it doesn't resolve anything, so why continue? Let your attention rest where life is actually happening. Breath moving, body presence, mind clear enough to see what's in front of you. And you hold it in this way, and the great image, the image of the Tao, starts to do work quietly. You aren't broadcasting calm. You're not trying to manage anyone, yet things start to change. People feel less need to posture. Conversations slow down enough for meaning to show up. How many people do you know that just talk and talk and talk, and you try to listen, you try to follow, but at some point you're just like, oh my gosh, Coogie Bird, shut up for 5 seconds. That is you already noticing the Tao. You want some quiet. You just don't know why. Right? That's why Taoist teachers matter. That's why podcasts like this matter. That's why reading the right books matter. That's why any way you can to figure out how to refuse the arms race of attention. There's predictable skepticism, right? If the Tao is tasteless, why would anybody choose it? Well, the answer is taste buds adapt. It's true. What once felt plain starts to register as clean. What once felt quiet starts to register as relief. People don't stay because they're impressed. They stay because they feel whole and less fragmented. The proof of Taoism is experiential. Fewer jagged edges, fewer impulsive reactions, more room to respond instead of lash out. The ability to stop for a second and gather your words. That's the peace and rest that Lao Tse names, not a trance, but a workable nervous system. You can tell you're starting to hold on to the great image when outcomes stop bossing your state. You know what I mean by that? You understand? When the outcome stops deciding your fate. The news still arrives, plans still change, people still disappoint you, but the baseline doesn't go swinging wildly with every headline or mood. Choices become simpler. Not because life is simple, but because you're no longer bargaining with the hum. You're getting out from underneath it. It's like you've been living under a rug in a living room and you finally made it to the edge, and when you peek out, you go, oh my gosh, look at all that. Others will sense that. They don't need you to be perfect. They need you to feel that a different center is possible. This isn't glamorous work. It's not going to trend. You're not going to go viral because of it. Don't get all worked up thinking you're going to do that, because you're not. But we're in a loop right now, and we're in a decade that's likely going to keep rewarding outrage. The steady presence of people who hold on to the image of the Tao is going to be medicine. In families, in classrooms, on teams at work, in clinics, in quiet moments, between friends. That's the cultural relevance. If the world's need is rising and the Tao's availability is unchanged, that could mean huge things for communities, online and off. I wish that we could accelerate the way people found the great image, but we can't. We can only do it one person at a time. The Tao doesn't compete for attention. It isn't trying to sell you anything. It isn't trying to keep you hooked. It's tasteless. It's not a get healthy quick scheme. It's not a get rich quick scheme. You're not going to go viral. And for most people, that's really hard to grasp. Why should I do it if I don't get the sparkles? We expect our relief to come suddenly in bright packaging. A new show to binge, a new app, a new diet, a new story to get lost in, something to spend money on. And for a moment, those things work. Sure they do. They make that hum drop for an hour, maybe even a day. But then that hum comes back. And that's the cycle you get stuck in. Stimulation, relief, return of unease. Stimulation, relief, return of unease. The Tao doesn't work that way. When you touch it, even briefly, you realize it isn't another flavor to taste and move on from. It is the very ground itself. The Tao isn't here to distract you from your unease. It's to show you that you can live without being owned by it, without being a part of it. You don't have to master anything to begin. You don't need years of study or robes or incense. The Tao is already present in your life right now. Every time you notice the hum and resist the urge to cover it with another distraction, you're dipping your cup into the Tao. Every time you allow a plain, quiet moment to just be what it is, you're holding on to the great image. You're not going to feel a big shift at first. That's okay. Remember the image. Food and music grab you, but they pass. The Tao settles in slowly. It works like clean water. Plain, yes, but life-giving. And if you've been feeling that low-grade unease, the restlessness, that background hum that you can't quite put your finger on, you're not flawed. That's not a flaw in your life. It's a signal. It's your system telling you that it's tired of all the freaking noise. It's looking for something steadier. And the Tao is steady, always. So as we wrap up, take this away. You don't have to wait for the world to calm down before you can find calm. You don't have to silence every thought before you can touch stillness. You don't have to fix every flaw before you can rest. Just notice. Hold it. And that may look like sitting quietly without rushing. It may look like walking without needing to go anywhere. It may look like simply letting yourself breathe and realize that you're already supported. The Tao doesn't announce itself with sparkles and fireworks. Most of the time, it just feels quiet. So if you're living in that background hum, the unease, the restlessness, the vague sense that, gosh, why is everything so heavy? You need to know you're not broken. You're not failing. You're hearing the world for what it is right now. And what you're looking for isn't more noise to cover it up. You're looking for that deeper current underneath that's always there. So here's a small reflection before we leave that you can try this week. One day. Start today. And then once a day, stop and let something ordinary be enough. What do I mean by that? A glass of water, the sound of wind, a few seconds of stillness. Just let it be enough. Don't reach for more. Don't expect a big payoff. Just let plainness be what it is and see how it feels to rest there, even for just a couple of minutes. The great image doesn't dazzle, but it's always going to be there. And in a world full of noise, that kind of steadiness isn't just comfort. It's an actual path. So thanks for listening, and thanks for walking on the path with me. Until next time, hopefully we can get that hum quieter in your life. Please like or subscribe or whatever you have to do on this particular platform that you're listening on. Find us on all the socials. If you have any questions, go to daoananda.org and fill out the little form. I'm happy to answer any of them for you. It's daoananda.org. See ya.
Thanks for listening to The Modern Taoist with Kit Man. Visit us online at daoananda.com or find us on all the socials. Please like or subscribe on this platform, and thanks again.